Volker Rath from Cloudflare with us today. He is part of a company that protects the internet, and he protects the company that protects the internet. So I don't think we can go any further than that. Volker is the Chief Information Safety Officer at Cloudflare.
Security, but same.
Okay. Sorry, Chief Information Security Officer. That's my poor writing.
That's okay.
I can't even read myself. It's scary. And he'll tell us about how we protect AI systems from emerging threats. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Oops, sorry.
No. What an introduction. I should have recorded that. That's really good. And thank you very much. You should work for our marketing department. I really like that. I really like that. A couple of words that I picked up from the last presentation, risk and trust, right? Yesterday, I booked a hotel and I was walking down the street and there were pubs and restaurants and it was loud and there was cars. But I really needed to book that restaurant for tomorrow night. And I called the restaurant and I got the AI assistant. And I thought, probably texting or web form is quicker before the experience was wonderful. The experience was wonderful. And the reason why I gave it a chance was because it was transactional. I don't really care. If it works, it's good enough. It's fine. If it doesn't work, well, they have a reservation for in 10 years with somebody with a different name. I don't care. But there are other parts where AI is actually disrupting the industry, and especially also your industry. It has a lot to do with trust. And it's not just transactional. And I think we need to remind that when we talk about AI, we need to think about trust, because trust is the fundamental building block of every business, right? And I thought about what should I talk about today, because I talk all day long about AI and sometimes I'm actually getting a little bit tired of it, right? And then I'm actually here at a conference that talks all day long about AI. So what can we add to that? So maybe I demystify a few things, and I'm happy to have chats outside about some of the things. As you said, Cloudflare, we do a lot of stuff, but what I'm really excited about is this highly innovative stuff. So we were one of the pioneers who implemented MCP servers, actually the first company who developed an MCP server. We are currently building something that's called WebBot Auth. I don't know what the guy smoked when he came up with that name. So WebBot Auth actually manages authentication between two bots. And that is a fundamental building block for agentic commerce. So Visa and MasterCard are now picking that up, building on top of that authentication capability. And we are also working on an identification capability so that bots can cryptographically say actually who they are. So that then allows agentic commerce, and you can actually transact and pay from bot to bot. And at the end with an MCP server and human. So in human to ChatGPT, ChatGPT to MCP server to bot. Bot talks to the other bot in the shop, and then 5 weeks later you get your shoes. So that's happening very, very fast. Now, ChatGPT came out in November 2022, right? So, and we are already talking about bot, and we are already seeing that the traffic in the internet is now shifting. For roughly 50% of all internet traffic is not bot generated, and content is also 50% roughly bot generated. AI is a gold rush, right? And with every gold rush, and by the way, you see that AI is not perfect. So I asked Gemini, come give me a picture about gold rush and AI, and it's just great. And I think Apple is now asking me, because I'm so innovative, I invented the pad with a display on the other side. It's fantastic. It works amazing. So AI is a gold rush, and the gold rush, we had so many gold rushes. We had the cloud gold rush, and we had the mobile gold rush, and all sides of gold rushes. And gold rushes have something in the technology industry, have something in common. Their short-term objectives are more important than long-term objectives. And long-term objectives, that's my business. That's why my business is so hard. Nobody wants to listen to me. Security and compliance and responsible AI and all three things together. And you know that responsible AI is sometimes violating compliance. So if ChatGPT, if you call into a bank, for example, and there's an AI bot, and we need to treat people equally regarding of their race, their color, their gender, whatever. That's responsible AI. But some people have by law more support available from the government. So compliance overrules AI. So these kind of problems we haven't really solved yet, and it's still early days, and there's a lot to do. So I talked a lot about the trust and how important the trust is. But when customers talk to me AI and other people talk to me about AI, I sometimes feel we're not going above pub level, but it's always this pub AI. And one customer just said, "What AI?" And I sometimes compare it with concrete, right? In the property industry, nobody talks about concrete. You talk about driveways, bridges, and buildings. But why are we talking about AI? What AI? And the security and compliance is the same kind of question. So let's structure that conversation a little bit. And if we think about what do we need to do in order to build trustworthy AI applications. The first one, when we talk about AI from a security risk and compliance perspective, we should talk about AI that supercharges threat vectors. So they make existing threats more powerful and mostly help them to scale. Before that, you needed a couple of people to do these phone scams, and now they have AI, and phone scams are just going through the roof because it's very easy to scale from 10 to 10 million calls. No problem. We're having phishing with the V, and all these kind of things that we need to think about. So how do we protect ourselves against threat-powered AI, of AI? The second one is the adoption of AI. So our people want to use ChatGPT. How confident are we that we allow our people to use ChatGPT or whatever? What can they put into ChatGPT? Shadow AI is a big problem here, and also data loss prevention, protection of intellectual property, personal identifiable information, these kind of things. Very difficult because saying no. So security should never be the office of the no. Because if you say no, I'm not too sure how many people have children here, but it just never worked with my children. The next one is developing solutions. What do we need to think about? And it's a completely different conversation. What do we need to think about when we develop solutions? And what is it that gives us confidence that we can move that AI application into production? And it doesn't blow up, or you think the customer is getting great value, but in reality, customers using to create images of kittens running in circles. And then there's, of course, and that's a big problem, AI in the supply chain. How do we deal with our supply chain, third, fourth, nth party, and they use AI? How much trust can I put in my third party? And we go a little bit into that. So when we talk about AI as a threat vector, that does not have too many errors. So sometimes it's funny. Try to find the errors in these things. AI is sometimes hilariously wrong. So when you talk about threat vectors, there are actually two. There's cyber, as you know, but there's also the business threat, the disruption. And I heard about this morning, and that's why we're talking about a gold rush, long-term or short-term objective. How fast should we go with AI? Oh, we're very cautious, very conservative. I don't know if we should use it, but then you should look left and right, and your competitors are going 200 kilometers per hour, and they are in the press all the time, and people say this is cool or whatever. Or maybe it's not cool. Maybe they run that thing against the wall with 200 kilometers per hour. We don't know yet. So difficult questions to answer. My advice here is a conversation amongst the C-level. The C-level do not talk enough with each other. So an IO with an TO, with an SO, with an FO, and come to a conclusion, what's actually our risk appetite for adopting AI? These questions, I've never seen a good answer to that questions. And the next one is, of course, AI as a threat vector. And as I said, AI is supercharging threats. And rest assured, there's a lot we have to sell. Please talk to my colleagues. So that's not my job. The one that you mentioned before, the scraping, this is really becoming an issue for content developers, because the internet is becoming really unfair at the moment, and I will come to that at the moment. Actually, the commercial model of the internet is in fact broken. So scrapers come, and especially content providers, they're getting scraped, all the content is getting out. We're not having a search engine anymore, we have answering engines, so nobody cares where this stuff comes from. So you're producing all this content, and somebody scrapes your website, they're building a business with your data, and you have no control. You also see here that AI is not perfect. So I told this thing 5 times, you need to suck up the particles and not spread them around. It didn't, but it was honest. It created the AI shit in, shit out pipe. So it's a real thing. So, and by the way, this is a huge problem for AI adoption, right? So if your data quality, data governance is actually the biggest hurdle in the adoption of AI, because the shit in, shit out problem is if your data is already good, clean, enriched with metadata and context, you're ready to go, but good luck with that. Why did I say that the internet is broken? It's becomes a little bit unfair. So we have technology that tries to identify crawlers or bots, and then you can put controls behind this bot so that you can make conscious decision, which bot do I want to allow and which bot do I want to block. So some of these organizations are actually not playing by the rules, not at all. It's just they're behaving like thieves. They're violating policies. They're violating your robots TXTs. They're not saying where they are. They try to disguise themselves behind other companies even. They pretend to be other bots. So there's a kind of a little bit of a Wild West, even from established companies. And that, for me, erodes trust, right? So therefore, we delisted some of these bots, even if they are commercial bots, and they're not bad companies as such, but they behave as bad companies, so we block them, unless the customer says, no, I want them again, right? When you think about the commercial model of the internet, back then, Google, 4 crawls, 1 referral. That makes sense. You make money, I make money. So at the moment, with Anthropic, 70,000 crawls for 1 referral. And that's a referral. That's not even a deal. That's not even a transaction. So that's really, really worrying. We need to really think about how do we deal with these bots. And that's why we invent technology that actually also allow paper crawls. So we're solving problems like micro payments, so that the bot says, okay, I want your content, but I pay you a cent for it. In order to protect ourselves against that, as I said, communication amongst the C-suite is the most important, but you also need to implement controls around visibility and control. And like with everything in security, it's all about visibility and control. You need to have policies, and you need to also have a good idea of your risk appetite. How fast do you want to go in this game? And you need to start with visibility. There is no control without visibility. The good news here, in terms of the threats, old principles still work. So the principle, I'm not talking about products, I'm talking about the NIST paper about zero trust. If you're consequently implementing zero trust, you'll be fine. So there's, of course, I don't have do I have a timer? Yes. Yes, oh, I need to run. And then when it comes to adopting, same thing, it's visibility, and then you need to implement control. You need to know what people are doing in order to block these people. We will provide the slides at the end, so I can go a little bit quicker. And with the development of AI solutions, we need to think about one thing. If there's one key takeaway, then please think about the data governance, the data quality, and the entitlement models. You have a tool that has a database, and you put an entitlement model around it. And hopefully using the 2 most important controls, the principle of least privilege and segregation of duty. So you know exactly who can do, read, write, or change and delete something in this tool. And you have multiples of them, and you've done this in the last 20, 30 years. And suddenly the AI guy said, give me everything. The entire entitlement model is broken. And if an entitlement model is broken, we're having a trust problem, right? So these are the kind of not so sexy problems we're actually trying to solve at the moment with AI. My advice here is think about these controls that you see here, especially this one, threat modeling. Threat modeling puts you in the shoes of attackers, and you need not only the threat model, the technology stack, but also the artificial intelligence stack. So you need to think about how can I misuse that thing? And then you identify risks, and when you identify risk, visibility, you implement controls. The big hyperscalers think a little bit ahead and a little bit faster than most other companies with everything they do. They know they need to scale. But you should also think about this. You may work on one AI application right now, and you're trying to do the thing, and it's all great. But when things break, and we learned this with cloud adoption, is as soon as the adoption goes from this to this, we are in trouble because we did everything manually, we did everything slow, we never prepared for scale. One thing is pretty sure, AI is coming fast. And I recently talked to a customer who said, if we replace a human job with agentic AI, it's probably between 4 to 6 agents that replace a human job description, sometimes even 10. So if we think a bit further, and if we think about agentic commerce, we are not dealing with 2, 3 big AI applications in the future. We're dealing with hundreds, thousands in each organization, probably very, very soon. So whatever you do, make sure you think about what is the business outcome. Business outcome, have metrics about business outcome, security, reliability, availability, cost management, operability at scale, sustainability. Is it worse that we burn a ton of coal for kittens running in circles? I'm not sure. So there's a sustainability question as well. Identify the key metrics for visibility and for control, and implementing governance framework so that you maintain that control. Finishing up with the third party, so she doesn't seem surprised, but she's pretty angry. Solving the third party problem is probably the hardest one. There's a lot of innovation coming from Cloudflare, and yes, one of the drivers was we were breached and affected by the Salesforce and Salesloft data breach, which was not necessarily an AI thing, but it really showed us that we have a trust problem, not with third and fourth parties. We have a trust problem as soon as we allow them to interact with each other on our behalf. You know, we're typically losing visibility and control. There's a lot of stuff coming. But ultimately, to solve that problem, it actually starts with, I come to that later, it actually starts with the procurement team. There was recently a lady at a cyber conference from the Victorian state government. I said, hello, what are you doing here? And she said, well, I'm from procurement, right? I said, what are you doing at a cyber conference? She said, that AI thing, if we want to protect ourselves, if we want to reduce risks from a third and fourth party perspective, we need to have our ducks lined up and our controls lined up in the procurement process. We need to ask better questions. We need to have better processes to ask the right questions and select our partners so that we can actually trust that supply chain. If we don't ask the hard questions and says, yeah, sounds cool, we are probably getting in trouble. And this is exactly what happened at McDonald's. McDonald's said, okay, let's have, they have a system called McHire, and McHire turned into McDisaster. Now, with a little bit of extra mayonnaise on top, actually, because they thought, you know what, we're using this AI company, probably a couple of 13 years old, starting a new startup, vibe coded the thing and said, well, we can scan and screen CVs, and we help you to select candidates and optimize the hiring process. Well, while the thing worked wonderfully, they had a little bit of a trust issue because they had a developer who was actually also responsible to put that thing into the internet. And the database was open to the internet. The username was 123456, and the password was. And McDisaster was live. They were in the press everywhere. The reason why you hardly remember and see this is happening so often these days. We're becoming completely, you know. We don't want you in the press. So please talk to us. There's a lot of things we can do. And I think I finally come to the end with 3 minutes over, whatever. Thank you very much. Much appreciated.